I said that part out loud, which means everybody got that one. So, for those of us who are just joining, hello and welcome to the 10100 conversation, where we have conversations about the 10100. What is the 10100? I hear you asking. I'm glad you asked. And the answer to that is it's a network of locally owned, worker-owned, locally sourced, and locally manned worker cooperatives that we're working on it. Point of the matter is this: we got joining us in the conversation today. We've got Lauren and we've got Laura, and we've got some things that we're going to be covering today because we've got a lot that we have been going over, including some really new and exciting news about the. I guess we didn't really talk about before. Lauren, but you had mentioned that there was a someone that you had been chatting with about the possibility of the 100. I don't know.
Unmute. Yeah, so it was actually just on a
just sort of in passing
on a thread regarding commercial retail space on the main street, and this woman had mentioned that she was about to open a restaurant up right before the shutdown, and long story short, she hasn't done that yet, but there had been some mention about days of operation, hours of operation on the main street, so but it sounds like she's at that stage, and I sent you her name so that we can chat a little bit about that.
I must have missed that somehow.
It was in Messenger. Wow, MSN.
I know, right? It's taken aback.
Flashback to the early 2000s when I was in high school. You guys were using it.
No, we're on ICQ, Laura.
I was going to say ICQ, yes. I don't remember what my ICQ number is. I used to have it memorized. I know. It was all strange. And,
no, now that I reflect back on that, it wasn't too safe.
Right?
Yeah.
Such is life. But here we are. So my brain has been a little befuddled today. I've made no. I've not hidden the fact that I've been kind of working through mental health issues and stuff as I've been working on trying to organize all of this stuff. So today was one of those fun experiences with the panic attacks and fun stuff like that. So
no.
Yeah, well, my brain's a little discombobulated, but I did fortunately find my itinerary. So we had the intro and the check-in. So the intro was botched, and the check-in is, I guess, how are you guys doing?
Not bad. I slept for the day a little bit because I was up late last night. I managed to throw my schedule off, but, I was taking a potato day and it kind of shifted my schedule on me, which usually it does the opposite. It just gives me enough rest to be able to get up in the morning, and it did not. So maybe I need more potato days.
You know what? And the heat is not helping.
I actually thrive in heat.
Really?
So I'm actually doing pretty okay. Yeah, I think like the boot, the cast boot, the air cast, is really heavy and tiring, so it's draining me just to like do stuff. And yeah, and it's not. It shouldn't be as depressing as it is, but it is.
Yes.
Even though it's an air cast, and I can still pretty much do a lot of things. It's like swampy as hell in the heat. That part of the heat is bothering me.
Oh yeah.
Swamp. My foot is a swamp right now. It's real. Dear listeners and viewers.
So let that be to you a cautionary tale to all involved.
Don't fracture the part of your foot that won't heal if you walk on it. Just don't fracture your feet. It's important to not do that.
Yeah. I'd
Yeah.
say so.
How about you, Lauren? Oh,
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm at a new place. I've been here for a couple of months now, and I finally got internet. So, just sort of laying out the space, getting that all worked in this weekend.
Nice.
And yeah, very, very, very hot. So gardening has been a bit of a challenge. Like, it's not right where I live.
Moving in the heat is not good. That much.
Yeah, but like the property is up the hill. Keyword up. So it's really hot to get up there, and I'm hoping next summer that I will be living at the same place. We'll see. And then other than that, James and I had a conversation about some of the permaculture principles and pathways beyond sustainability, which I just love this book. James and I talked a little bit about how the sort of underlying principles in here, even though they've been applied to agriculture primarily, look a little bit like the co-op structure and how it's being created. You know, essentially starting small, especially starting small. So, and learning as you go, that's a big component, is learning from the natural environment or learning about our community. So,
I like
that has been my week.
the philosophy of like there's like a bit of a philosophy in like incorporating what already exists sort of like naturally, you know, in like what your resources are and working within that flow, right?
Yeah, definitely not pushing against nature.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never win, right? And I've heard the same, you know, when I was doing my placement in social service work, and we were talking about bringing a mental health program into Georgian College. And one of the things she said that really stood out for me was culture eats strategy for breakfast. So it doesn't matter like how hard you try to fight against a system, right?
Yeah.
Like something like nature is always going to, yeah.
So
trying to find out ways to work with it, essentially work with nature, so you're not working as hard.
And it's hard to, with generations that were raised to believe that nature is an opponent, especially like there's a religious aspect to that too, where like the world is supposed to be ours to do with what we will, and
I can quote the scripture for you.
Contrary to, you know, their belief system. So we're not just dealing with, well, it is part of culture, but like there's a religious aspect, and people do not give up their religious beliefs. Even when like there's climate change, they'd rather deny it. When there's, you know, so if you're trying to push to suggest some kind of strategy of working with the land, you know, don't cut down that tree on the side of the road. It's not necessary to cut down that tree. They'll say, oh, well, I don't want it there, so I'm just going to do it anyway. And it's like, well, why would you though?
Right. That brought up an interesting, intriguing thought for me as well. When you're talking about working with the nature of things that already exist, you know, like understanding that culture eats strategy for breakfast, I think is what you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
And right, so like we live in like so then what does that mean for us in our culture? Like if we accept the fact that, you know, Canadian consumer culture exists, how do we insert ourselves into that and not get consumed by it or get swept along in it?
Yeah.
It's tough.
I think it's about. Can I just say something to address that? I think it's it's a bit of changing where the value is in a way. So like if the thing that I first thought of there when you sorry, what was the way you phrased that?
But the
Shit,
consumer.
I'm forgetting now. Oh, how do you sort of bring that into this market space? So I immediately thought of humor, the value of humor, for example. When you're fighting against, I don't want to say fighting against, when you're, say, coming head to head with mainstream culture, sometimes making fun of it is a way to sort of get the message across, like it's sort of subvert
It's
it.
disarming. It doesn't seem
Yeah.
as antagonistic to come at it that way, depending on how you do it.
So bring that to permaculture, and something that's happened in permaculture communities is, guerrilla gardening. So guerrilla gardening being like, guerrilla warfare, the same meaning. People will come into abandoned lots overnight, completely redo the entire thing with food and flowers, and then, if you're a landowner and you wanna dig that up, you wanna, charge people with vandalism, well, really? Like,
Because I mean, these are vacant
if the
lots,
property's
right?
not, if the property's not being used at all, essentially you're not doing you're not adding anything or damaging anything in a way that they wouldn't have to do the same amount of work anyways, right?
I remember reading
So if
about
like
some
the
of these
grass is
guerrilla
already
gardeners.
there, and you're just
Sorry, I was just saying. I remember reading about some of these guerrilla gardeners in Vancouver or something a couple of years back, but that has nothing to do or add to what you're saying. I apologize for interrupting.
yeah. Oh no, that's fine. I think we're getting a little off topic, but I think perhaps it has to do with redetermining where the value is. So, like with food, well, how much has the value of food been distorted in our culture, where it's all about convenience? It's all about what's gonna like satisfy that craving. Treat now, don't save it for later. Like these sorts of mentalities, and always eating on the go, standing over the sink. I know we're in the middle of quarantine, but I'm remembering back to when we met up at the mosque after that incident of vandalism, and people said, "Come and eat with us." Like that is one way we can sort of build community, and it came up again in the first meeting about anti-racism, or the anti-racist group in Grey Goose.
Yeah.
Gathering around food. So I don't know where I'm going with that per se, but that's just sort of my thought on it, is that it's currently undervalued. We need to sort of make people look at it in a different way, whether it's something to do with like beautifying the neighborhood, getting people meeting one another so that they have like a garden buddy. Their garden buddy owns the property, and the other buddy is coming over to help them garden.
Yep. And those end up being our members. Of our. Okay, so thinking about we have going back to the culture idea and then bringing it around to this, because we want to get to a point where we have a culture where eating together with the produce that we've produced in our own front yards, backyards, and windowsills and or balconies is something that's common. That's what we do. That's what our culture now expects. And if you don't do that, you're kind of like, people kind of look at you kind of like, oh, you're weird.
Oh, no. No. I don't think that's fair. I think it should be always an option. Like within our group, I think you and I spoke about this, James, about like, say if we had this, like your pub,
Yeah.
right, with the Dungeons and Dragons pub during the day, you're probably going to have a kitchen in the back anyways,
100%.
in that space. So why couldn't it be used as a place for any of our members who don't have a place to eat lunch but are downtown during the day to come there? You have some prep space, and there'll be veggies on it.
That's actually...
whatever we grow.
For one of the designs that we had for before the current occupiers of the bingo hall went into it, I had designs on the place, and it involved a design like a kind of like a modular kitchen design, very much like that.
Okay.
That was hey Gavin. Sorry, not modular kitchen design, but the kitchen was sort of at the back and was able to operate independent of the front of the house. So so
like two separate entrances? Or?
Yes, so you could open, in theory, have like a breakfast, small breakfast type restaurant or bakery that serviced the morning, that was separate from the front of the building that was run as like a family-friendly pub-like restaurant, which would be the front, that the kitchen would also service. So you could end up having like different crews of people. So you'd have one crew of people that basically use the kitchen from like 5 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock in the morning, and they serviced the back of the house, which was operated as a breakfast restaurant. Small place, not too big, maybe 3 tables, maybe a patio outside, that sort of thing. But big enough to operate something and to utilize the kitchen space that was there. Yes.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Or anyone. Do we have a community kitchen in town? Like, is there a place where someone, say, like a catering business or someone that wants to sell some baked goods, they go to like a licensed kitchen and can do that and then sell it, say, at the market? Is there a spot currently that people can do that?
No, there's places you can rent out, but I don't know there's places that you can like just use. I know there's people have used the St. Andrew's Church kitchen for things.
Yep.
Right.
I'm
just wondering if there's...
Yeah. And you have to pay for that, I believe. I think there's like a renting fee, but they give it a discount. I'm not sure that's what you're talking about. You're talking about something you could use for free, kind of?
No, I'm wondering if there's, like, since I've mentioned this woman that I was speaking to who's interested in the restaurant, if she can't open and maybe it's catering, but if we had kitchen facilities, there could be potential to rent it out to a few people that are looking to cater, right? So that it's in operation as much as possible.
Sure.
There isn't anything presently of that sort, but there is a place that's perfect to set up for that. The Harmony Center had O'Share and basement and the kitchen there, so it's licensed and stuff, but nobody's using it currently. So, and the people who run the Harmony Center are always looking for people to use the space for community projects. So it would be absolutely, if you want to start something, that those are the people to talk to.
And all we would really need is an inspected kitchen. And
well, I wouldn't want to duplicate a service that's being offered by the Harmony Center.
Right.
But if we could be their client, if we were their client, that would be a little different, right?
Well, O'Share isn't in the Harmony Center anymore, so that is not being used for anything.
Okay.
And I mean, there's always room for more than one thing, because someone might need something that, for whatever reason, options are nice for people. I would say, like, you never know, like, There's time someone rents a kitchen and it's already taken, or you need it, more options are nice. I think there's always a market for another kitchen. I'm just saying that there.
And I think there are multiple kitchens as well. Like there's.
You have to do your research on that.
It depends on and if you're doing catering and stuff. Again, all you really need is an inspected kitchen, and then you can do all your catering. And then it just needs to be, within health code and all that other fun stuff. I don't know too much about it, but from what I do know, that's sort of like the procedure that would be in place if you're going to be running an official business, with insurance.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and it's also about. Because it'll be about networking with this other potential person, finding out what their vision is. Because the more I think about it, the more I feel like, because within our 10-100 structure we have 10 businesses, right? Rather than having individual restaurants be individual listed businesses on the list of on the 10 businesses that we have, we would just have a category of restaurants, and every restaurant that or food service industry that the 10-100 operates gets operated under that particular umbrella. So we can end up with multiple restaurants that operate independently of each other, but budget-wise are all covered under a single operating umbrella. Which could make for things like bulk purchasing of supplies to be a lot easier. You can, which then brings us back to the conversation about the permaculture, because that is going to affect and inform how we source our supplies, and so that's where I think the conversation comes around full circle. I was sort of perhaps going a little hyperbole earlier in talking about getting to the point where we could affect culture where it becomes normal and expected that we would be able to share with our neighbors the produce that we've grown. And now we're a long way off from there. And how am I doing? Am I becoming a robot to anybody, or?
I'm just scared.
Okay, good. Oh, nuts! I've gone and lost my train of thought. Oh well, it's gone. I think it was about bringing the.
You don't like sharing your face, a beautiful face. You're not sharing a beautiful face today, Laura. Laura.
My internet is absolutely crap.
It's really choppy. It's hard to hear you guys.
Oh.
No worries.
If I disappear, just add me back in. It doesn't have to be any kind of ceremony. My internet is crap, and people haven't come to fix it yet.
Okay, we'll try this again.
There we go. So I was talking about permaculture and what? Okay, yeah. So we
we're sourcing things.
Yeah, locally sourcing, and also like working within the culture that currently exists, which is a consumer culture, which has been dealt a death blow thanks to COVID-19. In some ways, brick and mortar buildings seem to be that were already precarious at the beginning of this are in a very, if not more precarious, certainly more dangerous situation by common what's the word? Common sense, whatever. Point of the matter is, businesses be closing, and on one hand, that gives us an opportunity to go in and pick up supplies or materials at a very low cost, which is great for us. But if the situation hasn't changed, that brought the situation where those brick and mortar buildings or businesses, went into receivership in the first place, we'll just end up in the exact same position as they were, unless we do something different than they did.
And collaborate with them, because I don't want to be getting a deal off of someone's misfortune. I think we should make every effort for people to be welcomed in, and we can support. Sorry, I didn't hear.
You're such a good person.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I saw so many goodbye messages from Sarah there, and I felt so bad for her. So,
right.
I think it's a great idea to reach out to her.
Yeah, and I've reached out to her yesterday to see if she was in a place to join the conversation. Evidently not, and that's more than fair. I can only imagine where she's been at. But this is totally the sort of thing that I would have loved to have been in a place to be able to help out, in a situation like that. And I guess that's where, like, the difference being that if the 10100 had been in a place with our membership, what we would have done is we would have gone to them and say, okay, to you and your employees, we will buy, Sarah, you're the sole proprietor, you're the major owner, we'll buy you out of whatever your business is worth, and then we will extend an invitation to both you and all your employees to become members of the cooperative. And your employees will become the default dedicated members to her wellness business, that has now been, purchased or bought out by us. And then she would then continue to, Sarah would be in the first position to be the manager of that business, presuming that she would still want it to. And then off of her shoulders would come the responsibility of taking care of the accounting, the bookkeeping, the payroll, taxes would be handled by our central office. All of the nitty gritty fun stuff of the administration. And she would just be free to order the supplies and organize the laborers to make sure that the hours were open and she would be there. At any rate, that's what we would have done, and unfortunately, we aren't there yet. And it's that tension of like. Still so small, like functionally, as I was saying to Lauren the other day, there's about 4 of us total that are coming to these conversations, and I would consider that we're the core of this idea for now, and I'm excited to be working on the next leg of the thing that we need to do to be able to grow and to organize.
I was just thinking, we talked about doing a website, and unfortunately, doing something that involves a lot of similar elements, and it's just finishing up this week, but I can give you a sneak peek to kind of show you what I think can be done. You want to see that?
Yeah, let me give you screen sharing. Hold on. Screen share.
Ooh, privileges. I voted for you.
Okay, I believe you can share your screen.
Okay, well, as music lovers, you'll love this too. Hold on. Share the screen. Okay. So this is a site for the Georgian store songwriter circle.
Nice.
So, but the neat thing is what's been added here is you got accounts. So you just log in with my account here, hopefully. So you technically this will be, you make posts for people, they can share it, but this gives you an idea of what can be done. So I have like, you can upload your music, I can make a new music post, but I'm just kind of showing you what can be kind of done. Like you'll see each piece of the person has a member page here. So let's say here's 3. You go on to Dave Hawkins here, so you got these latest music posts here with the SoundCloud links and stuff. But what I'm just trying to get at is each person have their own member page.
Okay.
Right. So you see, and then you can, but basically we can put the data on there too, so we can have like a form for like time shifts and stuff like that you're talking about. And,
right. So instead of putting down music options, we would be putting in things like what a person is qualified to do. You know, so I can do like food services shift, I can do a kitchen shift, I can do a retail shift, I can do, and any sort of shift there.
So if I go into this again, if I go, you'll see here too, we got these categories here too that, so on the back end he can feature stuff. So there's so let me go here in a minute here. You know what? I have to log it. No, I'm not actually. Thing. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So this is so. But you see, you got the posts here, and then they get sent to here on the front and back end. So these are all different, and then I have a custom meta field here that can be featured or not featured. So, so if I select a post to featured, it gets put on these made post pages. But if they're not featured, it just stays to their member page.
Okay, so, Gavin, I have a question about one of the things that's that we were also talking about last week. And that was about in creating a kind of form that would allow us to create makeshift business plans or like outlines.
So you send me what you need on that form, and I can produce something for you.
Perfect.
So you just give me, make a document of like all the fields you need, of whether you think of multiple choice selection, image selection, whatever. Just kind of lay it out on paper, and I can mock something up pretty quickly. I'm just finishing up this site, and I'm doing my own site, but I can probably put that in between that stuff too, for just to show you a demo where you mock something up quickly.
I do have some notes that I have in terms of some of the foundational things that we need to work into that. Assumptions like labor costs, material costs, and expenses. Those are the 3 foundational things. I knew there was one I was missing. And so those are the 3. And if we can figure out what those 3 different costs are, that'll give us our projected operating budget for the quarter, potentially for the year. But
these would be submitted to from people, and then you pick 10, right?
Well, actually, in an ideal world, we would have multiple businesses, more than 10, for us to choose from.
Yeah.
Now, I don't. Yeah.
But you want a submission form, though, right?
This is exactly what we need, and this is going to be the format that so that anybody who's interested in doing a business with us, we would basically ask them to say, okay, so consider that this is how we budget. This is how we operate. We figure out what the labor costs are, and we set that money aside. We figure out what the material costs are, and we set that money aside. We figure out what the expenses are going to cost us. We set that money aside, and that comes out of our initial capital pool. and which is what our membership fees are going towards. And once we've got all that money set aside, we set that aside for the quarter. We then, going forward, we then set the businesses up to make up whatever their expenses and material costs and labor costs are going to be. We set them up in order to cover those costs going forward as we bring in customers and we generate revenue. And the idea is to give ourselves enough of a infusion of cash at the very beginning and enough support from a network of 100 of us to support these businesses, to get them off the ground and to get them rolling and to get a customer base as quickly as possible, so that we can then move on to the next business and do the exact same thing together as a community.
I'm pretty good at developing forms now, so I can try to get something up and just demo it, like something in the back end.
Perfect.
Okay.
Right, I do get a little wordy and excited about all that.
I know. I'm excited too. I'm just finishing up this site here, so that's hopefully this week, and then I'm just will be doing my own website, but then I'll be also maybe hook up with a working prototype in that time too for you.
So can we do that after the meeting? Or can we talk after the meeting a little bit more details about it?
Yeah, sure. If you want to go one-on-one, I won't bore these people with all that stuff. Really,
Or it would just be in terms of working on
I'll take notes.
I have less than a minute in this particular thing here. Can I call upon everybody's good graces to join me once again, so we can hammer out? I have listed down here: define democratic structure, vision, and mission statement. Is everybody open for that?
I am, yeah. I'm just pretty, I'll be pretty passive today, because I'm just pretty worn out, but yeah, for sure, I'll join you and listen, for sure, okay?
Okay. Alright, I'm just gonna end this. Yeah.
I'm gonna go to the store, I'll be back, and then I'll join up on the next meeting, where will it be posted?
It's the exact same link. Exact same link.
Okay.
So we'll see. I'm just going to end this meeting now, and we'll see everybody in about a couple seconds. Hydrate.
Hey, I'm just gonna go to the store quickly.
Sounds good, man.
Okay.
And to everybody joining us on the internet, thank you so much for your continued patience. I hope you guys are getting something out of this. I'm just going to quickly check our YouTube thing here. And once again, we do not have anybody in the live chat. So to all the ghosts out there and the lurkers who are not watching, you're awesome. Yeah.
Well, I'm not the only person consuming goods. I've been dizzy today, so I'm like, maybe some food will help. But like eating, which is why I turned my screen off for a while, and I felt really bad. Like, this is not professional. I better turn my screen off, and I'm still dizzy. I think there's an air pressure thing going on.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if there's a storm incoming. It's feeling oppressive.
Oh yeah, we're due. We're definitely due, and that'll do it every time. I love storms. I hate what the period just before the storm does to my brain.
Right. When Lauren returns, and I do hope she does, one of the things that we talked about was setting down some guidelines for democratic structure, even if it's just in terms of Robertson rules, but in order to ensure that we can not one person dominates the conversation, and also to encourage that voices are heard. And so that's one of the things that I'm hoping to discuss. Here we go. Here's Lauren.
Not that we seem to have much of an issue with that so far, but then again, we're just a small group, and we're all very friendly, kind people, and nobody is.
Mm-hmm. And
hi guys, sorry. Can you? Sorry, I'm late there. My device lost all power. Can you guys hear that motorcycle?
No.
No.
Okay. It's a neighbor that just sits there and revs for like about an hour each afternoon. So just in case you're wondering.
America. Oh man. So yes.
Roll down the window and scream out, "We get it! You have a small dick." That was.
You'd think. I feel sorry for the young gentlemen who drive up and down my road at 2:00 in the morning without exhaust pipes. You know, right?
Oh, jeez, yeah.
Or at least exhaust pipes that don't appear to well,
local car drivers that drive by young women and rev their engines, thinking that that's somehow attractive in any way.
I know, right?
I don't get it. I do not get it.
I mean,
it's
the statistical
likely.
It is. It's aggressive. And look at me, I'm an alpha male. Like, that's not attractive at all. I had these guys come up in a Jeep, but like they're like an SUV, like a bulky SUV, and they came up at a stoplight, and I was waiting to cross the road, and I'm just pushing my bicycle along, and they were listening to like this really, really loud techno music that you could hear just boom, boom, boom out. They turned the volume down, rolled down the window, and looked at me, and they're like, "Hey, baby, what's going on?" And I just like, I'm pushing my bicycle, and like, my ride gets better mileage. And I just like, what do we do? And then just like roll the window back up awkwardly.
Oh man.
So are we going ahead without Gavin?
Yes, no, he encouraged us. Yeah, in the true spirit of democratic what have you, he encouraged us to move on without him. But we found him. That was really quick, man.
Really? Because I got locked out.
Oh wow. Hey, how's Nina been?
Pretty good. Whiny. I swear she's in pain some days. She has this really like screamy kind of baby whine at night some days.
Really?
Want attention or something, but.
She's obviously.
You'll learn to see cat. My cat's very whiny too, and she's okay most of the time.
I have her come up, a little bit, pet her, and then she wants to go away. I don't know.
That's a cat.
Well, that sounds like a cat.
She was on the froggy blanket that just came today there a bit, so she was just lying on there. So.
Yeah.
But she doesn't want to stay still too long. Like she's very up and about. Like she'll stress her. She could go on the windowsills a bit. That's nice to see.
How old is she?
She's old, I think, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought she was. Yeah, I thought she was like old when she came to live in from underneath my my backyard patio.
Nina, the big cat.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now I know where Gavin got his mystery cat, and okay, you gave Gavin a cat. Gotcha. Okay.
All the mysteries have come together.
Adopted.
Yeah.
Father.
So bringing back one of the things that I can't see her. Oh yeah, there she is.
Sorry, I'm trying to get comfortable.
One of the things that Lauren and I had discussed was baking democracy into our project right from the outset. And I think that's important. I want to. That's the whole point of having a worker-owned cooperative. So I realize that I have the gift of the gab. I'm incredibly long-winded, and I do tend to go on. So if I'm ever doing that, please, somebody wave at me, get my attention, and I will either try to sum up and get to my point, or I will say, have I said this before? And if everyone says yes, I'll be like, okay, I'll try to move on.
The only thing is, like, if you start repeating something that you've said 100 times, is like the only time, and it's just like skip over that and get to something else. I find that most of the time, even when you're long-winded, you're formulating an idea, and it is valuable to hear the whole thing. So unless you're using information that is like already known, or you've said before, or something like that, other than that, I don't find it troublesome personally.
Yeah.
I had a thought on that actually.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit long-winded and take a while to think things out, just like I did there. So I had mentioned this to you, James, about having a structure and like homework, or knowing what to expect in the coming weeks, so I could do some of that thinking ahead of time and have at least a few things locked down that I know need to be addressed. So that's part of it, but I wonder if, like, the facilitation structure of the meeting while we are on Zoom, it's difficult. We talk over one another, and yeah, there is a chance that it's going to get a little bit off topic and have to be brought in. What I'm wondering if we can do is, if we're not speaking, we mute ourselves. It also cuts out background noise. And then if there is a function on the side, let's see, more. If you go to more, you can raise your hand. You can also clap. You can give a thumbs up to agree. There's a chat function, and you can send messages there to one person in particular, like a follow-up question, or a question to the whole group. So then, if we're taking turns, then we need to know when our time is elapsed, right? So maybe if we're doing a round where everyone's having an opinion, take 1 minute. And maybe you don't get everything out as perfectly as you really feel you need to at that time, but it will always grow on that. Like, there's no such thing as losing ideas. I don't think. They always seem to come up again later on. So I think that, for me, having that sort of structure from the organization of the whole meeting to how we're going to take turns talking, will, I think, help. I hope it makes sense for others to feel heard and feel like you're actually hearing each person talk a little bit, at least a little bit. Does that make sense?
Well, it's like, what do they call those? The Roberts rules for discussion, or no?
I know. We covered things like this in a group facilitation class, which was, supposed to be like a psychosocial group, but the ideas are the same essentially. We're doing group work. We all want to participate, and it's challenging online.
Too true.
Yeah. So that was democratic structure that you're brainstorming there, eh, James?
Yes, the democratic structure. Yeah.
Okay. So I wonder if I'm just thinking out loud here, if we do say, like, what was our formula today? We did introductions, check-ins, so that would be around, again, like using those simple procedures, like click off your mic if you're not speaking, take your turn. And then the same with, like, as we're following up on each agenda item, if that item is to be spoken to by someone specific, let's give them the air. And then we could maybe type questions or save them for a round of question answer.
I like that. Laura, have you got any thoughts, or Gavin? Or we'll start with Laura.
I like the idea. I do think that we are pretty open with each other at this stage, because like right now there's only 4 of us, and this is the biggest group I've been in with James in one of these meetings. So usually it's like not as necessary, but if it does get to a point where we do end up having a more structured meeting, I think it is important to put things in there like that. I mean, certainly that's how it works with my meditation group, is like you mute things and whatnot, but yeah, so I think we've got a pretty good, like, I don't think it's problematic yet, personally, but it is something to think about.
I would like to say, I think it's probably a good idea once we start having about 4 people. Like right now, I think maybe with you and James, but here once you get 4 people, it can get pretty, over, just small things can turn off everybody from hearing things. The other thing I would say too is, I'm talking for myself, this is not against anybody, but you got, also, I have to remember myself too, to honest that, how long you're talking to, and make breaks to ask people questions, and keep them, like, just don't keep going on and on, just take time to say, okay, maybe we need the questions, maybe you have a bunch of ideas, just get one idea out, save the other ideas for down the road, because I think I have a problem specifically with myself. I'm actually just talking about myself here, where I try to get everything out, and then nothing gets out. So, you just kind of, I think we'll definitely need a structure, and I think that's good, Laura, that you bring it up. Yeah, go ahead, or I'll keep myself here.
I just want one other thought there. In the for the sake of time, I think that's where it becomes really crucial to keep things concise. Because there is one thing that really seems to turn off people from meetings is, why am I here? They want to get what they want, their part done.
Mm-hmm.
Especially once we get bigger beyond our social circle, it's not time for socialization. Because you'll lose people, and that seemed to happen at CAT a little bit, at the climate action team. Is if we didn't find someone who really knew how to run a good meeting, a tight ship, then you can't keep people focused.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And they're all adults there too.
No, that's good. It's just how you properly have to do these things. I mean, it starts out kind of friendly, but once you start going, why get serious, you have to have an agenda already. And maybe you want to take that, because you seem like you have already, like, some good role, like leadership in that regard. Maybe you want to, I know Laura's been keeping the notes, but maybe if you want to, if you feel like you like the spirit, maybe you could keep the agenda going, trying to keep everybody on track. I know so that's something I can do. To be fair, that seems like you seem to have a grip on it, so.
I think note taking and like facilitating should be separate.
Yeah.
Because when you're sort of facilitating a group.
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea though. Maybe Laura and I could split it up that way.
Laura's already doing note taking, right? So maybe you could try to get everybody on track with the meetings, like get everybody to and just have a sign your time's ticking,
Hold up
I was going to ask, is it the job of the facilitator to keep track of the time? Okay.
Yeah, so I just think you'd be good at that. And me and James will talk forever if we don't get shut off. I'm just speaking for myself, but I certainly think you would agree too, probably.
So the thing that I like to do when I do take on a facilitator role is I'm pretty much backseat. So like it's not my ideas and opinions that are driving it that day, because I'm just facilitating between you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an interesting skill to learn. I mean, like if you join any board, then it's a good skill set to have.
For sure. No, it's a good one, sorry, I'll mute myself. You go ahead, James.
Well, I was just going to say that brings us to a really nice potential segue or an overlap over things that we, I guess, a couple of different things that I want to reflect on. First off is we lose people if they're asking why are they here, right? And that's something that is really resonating with me. I'm going to have to digest that and make sure that I have good reasons for people to be a part of these conversations. And I feel like that's an area for me to certainly expand and grow into. Shoot, what was the other two? Is the why, and I really liked the mission. Thank you. We do need to talk about mission and how specific we're going to end up getting. So perhaps I would open it up to everybody. How do we want to define our mission? How would we define and how should we?
I
know, right?
I think it might be better to start with a vision, potentially, or a set of values, because your mission is how you get to your vision.
Well, our mission is to get 100 members, built around 10 businesses. Now we're not limited to 10 businesses, and we're not limited to 100 members. But that's the beginning.
Okay, James. Can I just poke you with whys as you just let your brain spill over?
Sure.
Okay, so why are we doing that? Laura, you're writing, right?
Why are we doing 10-100?
Why 10 businesses? Why 100 people?
Because that seems to be the sweet spot where you could get 10 small to medium-sized businesses. They could turn a couple hundred to low million a year in terms of revenue. That you could also start with anywhere between a couple 10,000 to a couple 100,000, which we could then collect using by charging 100 members $100, which seems to be the magical number for
but why? But why are we doing this at all? Go outside of the cooperative business jargon. Like you and I meeting each other on the street.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this your mission? Why do you care?
Oh, golly, because we want to grow for me, I want to grow my business, like the thing I want to do with my life, right? If I resign to the fact that I'm gonna work, I want to work at something that is going to be good, that I'm going to get rewarded for. If I'm going to be putting the energy into it, that sort of thing.
You want to do that for other people too?
Absolutely, I want to do it for as many people as possible.
That might be part of the vision.
Mm-hmm.
You're good at this, Laura. You get stuff out of James.
I think of it this way. If you're having a conversation with someone at the end of the meeting, they haven't been with us before, and they'll say, you know what, James, this isn't really for me. I don't understand the pull. Why are you doing this? Why should I care?
No, I hear you. That's good.
Like, this statement has just got to be a hook that they can't dislodge. Essentially something that communicates the same values of, we gotta be really specific about it here. It's almost like work freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Freedom over work-life balance.
Well, and it's like when we were talking the other day, and you were a little worried about, what do we do with managers who don't understand,
how to be good managers.
Yeah, right? And I'd say, well, you got to remember, the manager isn't hiring workers. We're workers hiring our managers. And if we have a bad manager, we fire them. Essentially, we vote them out of their position.
So there's another thing we're doing. We're creating. What would you describe that sort of work environment?
Worker cooperative. Laura, do you have a input, or I saw your hand there?
Yeah, I was going to say democratization of the workplace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The why. I mean, when I think about the why, it's not a business statement, right? It's and it doesn't always work well when you're trying to convince other people of doing business. It's the community. It's the people that I'm going to be working alongside in my dream job, my dream workplace. And it's knowing that I am doing that with everybody, not just for my dream job, but the dream job of 100 other people. And I don't know. It's having been a wage slave. I remember putting in my life, my blood, my sweat, my toil, all of it, and getting maybe getting $1 raise at the end of the year for my troubles, and yeah, I'm not gonna complain. I've loved getting that $1 raise, but at the end of the day, at the end of the year, I really didn't feel like I got out of the business all the life I put into it. And I mean, I ended up burning out, so I really didn't get much out of it. I gave so much that I broke, and I want to avoid that sort of pitfall for not just for myself, but for everybody else. I want to create a workers' workplace, really, a workplace that's designed for the people who are doing the labor. And by removing the owner class of people, who might be doing the labor, might not be doing the labor, but by removing the individual ownership from the equation there, we end up, and by spreading it around through all of us, then we get to enjoy the rewards collectively as well. Anyway, I can wax poetical about that. I feel like I'm off topic now. Yes?
I just want to add something to that. Okay, so let's consider that when we're pitching this to people, it might not be best to come at it from a strictly financial dollars and cents perspective. Like they say, don't get emotional with business, but those are the people that we're looking for.
Well, we want at least 10 of them, because we want those guys in the accounting department.
Oh. No. I mean, I think there's a lot of value in putting that right there, which seems so genuine and honest, articulating that somewhere within the core of the business.
Okay.
Because it's not the same. Like, we know it's not the same as a for-profit business.
Yeah.
But when we leave it as cooperative, people get to insert whatever meaning they know into that word, right? And especially, like, people who don't like to hear about socialism are going to shut themselves off to it right away.
Yeah.
I think if you're able to put it in dollars and cents without using that word, though, and then talk about the culture that we're trying to create.
Yeah, because
that is what is unique about us.
Like, once a month, every business gets together and they go over the business. Like, every every worker owner gets together and they learn the books. They go over, and is there any voting that needs to get done? It gets to happen then. If there's any problems with the manager, it gets worked out then. And you get paid for that day. You come in, and if you normally would wait tables or sell things to customers or dig in a garden, as the case may be, you don't do anything that day. You just do business, the business of the business. And so everybody understands where we're at with it. That's the nuts and bolts of it. The reality that I've always hoped and dreamed is that when that happens, in addition to going over financials, going over pie charts and all that other great stuff, there would be potlucks, and there would be community building, there would be team building exercises, there would be, I want to use the term koinonia, because that's where I'm coming from, but a kind of...
Can I just chime in there?
Yes, please.
Do we have cults, like sacrificial sacrificing people to the gods and stuff like that?
I mean, whatever, however your barbecue.
Right? No. Okay. Lauren say no. Can't do that. Okay. I know that. I'm just kidding.
But it came from the idea that when I start my business, I want to start it with my friends. And when it comes to doing the business, there's going to be times when we have to be serious and we have to look at the numbers and say, okay, this is the business side of things. Okay. But also the time when we're going to laugh together, we're going to play together, we're going to have fun together and use the proceeds of our business to kind of throw ourselves a little bit of a party on that day. And and working that into our business culture, where business day isn't just the dread, it is the opportunity for us to come together and to to have community, for lack of a better term. What do you guys think? I'd be curious to know if you have any feedback on that, or if that feeds into the why at all. Yeah, Laura?
So it does. It definitely created a democratized workplace. Certainly, I think improving the mental health situation of the workplace, because how many people's jobs have a negative impact on their mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And that's definitely an angle we can take. But further than that, is it so when we come up with a mission statement or something, then is there a way to? I think a job would be to come up with take those ideas and then put them into a concise statement that we can then put on social media and websites and all the rest of it, so that people sort of get the gist of it without, necessarily having to look at all the bullet points. Although we could do bullet point, if we wanted to. It's just for the sake of draw of people and getting them to sort of understand, if there's a way to put that as concisely as possible.
You know what? My brother would probably be able to help out with something like that. Lauren, I've been seeing your hand there.
I was just going to say I was going to offer to help out with a draft of that. I've done a little bit of that sort of thing before. But if you've got someone in mind to force the work on, then go ahead.
Well, my brother would be one of those things, because he's possibly he's one of these people who's in the wings. He's one of these people who's like, I'm interested, but I think he's waiting for just a little bit more organization and a little bit more group cohesion sort of thing, which I expect a lot of people are. So I figure, strategy-wise, if we can pull together 8 other business-minded people, we might then in turn find that they will in turn bring in the rest of the 100 that we need in order to get to make this financially viable. Because again, the why, tailoring the why to who's going to be joining might be smart. Like tailoring a why to somebody like Sarah Fowler. This is going to be a way of getting your dream business off the ground and keeping it running. And especially during the hard times. How? Good question. Because we keep bringing the money in, and we've got 98 people in the wings sending business your way. Hopefully, that's the theory, and it seems to play out historically. But I'm now rambling. But tailoring the why to business-minded people, and versus tailoring the why to people who aren't necessarily coming in with this with a business idea in mind. They're just tired of being a wage slave. Yeah. Yes, Lauren.
Sorry, I think it might be a little bit too early for something like this, but I do feel like it's important for some of these stories. Like, James, you've talked about, I think I know more of your story than others in terms of, this wage slave concern, the impact that the old system has had on you versus what we're trying to create. Mm-hmm. It might be interesting to provide a few different perspectives down the road in terms of like a biography.
Interesting.
Like if that could be something on our website. So I understand, James, that you say you're going to be providing a different pitch depending on how people are coming into the business, what the relationship is there.
It would make sense. Like it's the same basic It's the same basic idea. Hold on. It's the same basic idea all around. It's just depending on who I'm talking to, I may decide to focus on different aspects. Like if I'm speaking to a business-minded person, I might emphasize the fact that the risk is spread out amongst 100 people. You don't have to worry about putting your house on the line for this, because the liability is all in the company, in the corporation, not in you. So I might choose to go that direction as opposed to someone who is nigh on to burnout, and I'm saying, we're trying to build this situation where you can earn the exact same amount of money that you're earning currently on 28 hours in a work week rather than 48 or however many you're currently working, right? So, and then if you wanted to work more hours, you could. But if you wanted to be where you are financially currently and have more time to yourself, that's the goal, is to be able to, for us to be able to work part-time and to spread that workload out amongst enough of us that we can make this all sort of successful. It's a union. Yeah. What is we came up with before? I mean, it's not tanky bullshit. I'm ready to play out Trump this way. Yeah. Oh, good grief! Don't get me started on Trump. I almost want to do a section on, the little agenda on like stuff that Trump has said this week. But I won't.
Every talk show says that's every talk show for the last 4 years. What kind of Trump said?
I think Lauren's trying to bring us back around to bring us back into focus.
Nope. But I want to be the troublemaker of these groups. I'm saying that I don't care really. So you have to work with me for it.
Still think you're awesome, Gavin. We've got 2 minutes left, just about, in this particular session. I know that it's a lovely day and the heat is oppressive. I feel like we still have a little bit more to hammer out in terms of. I wanted to give everybody some homework that we could all maybe kind of work on together, so we could be on the same page. And I don't know if 2 minutes is going to be enough for me to disseminate all that information. And I don't know if we have fully wrapped up what we were talking about before. Yeah, that's what I'm feeling too, Lauren.
I was just going to suggest we can come back to that mission vision statement after you talk with your brother.
Oh, sure.
And then maybe we can, just go over it then, see if there's anything that needs tweaking, or...
Well, in terms of that, why don't I restart the thing there? We can come up with a couple of bullet points. I say we limit ourselves to maybe between 3 to 5, depending on how energetic we get. How many have we got on there? Oh, it looks like we already freedom for overwork, work life. Okay, never mind. We already got it. So Laura's going to send that stuff to me, and I'm going to talk about that with my brother. And if my brother is not amicable to that right at the moment, then Lauren, you and I will probably chat about it, and we will get something sorted. Can I restart the movie or restart the Zoom call, and we'll go over quick homework, and then yeah, because it's about to end anyways, so I'll just restart it real quick. Boom, boom.
Come.
Nanu.
I was just going to mention there, James, about sharing documents.
Yes.
I wonder if could we set up a Google Drive, there's Dropbox, there's... Maybe we should have a Facebook group that's just us, so we can sort of chat and discuss, but it's not for every... it would be just little tedious things, right? That's what we need.
We could also... I have set up a Discord server for something like that.
We do have a list of names where we're organizing these things. I think it's on Google
Drive.
Yeah.
Google Drive?
I'll add you into that.
Okay, is that one that I'm able to upload a document and then you guys are able to see it and edit it?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
How's your foot treating you, Laura?
It doesn't hurt. It's just a pain in the butt to wear the cast.
Yeah.
I'd actually happier without it, but my foot wasn't healing. So it doesn't hurt at all. It hasn't. I've been walking on a fractured foot without pain
Wow.
for weeks now. And it just because it wasn't healing that they decided to put a cast on it because every time I take a step of the ship.
Okay.
But I couldn't feel it.
Ah!
It was swelling at the end of the day, and it'd get a little sore, and there was the bump and whatever, and okay.
Laura, you are the embodiment of punk rock, but we're gonna bring it around to finishing up, I guess, on we finished up on the mission statement. I feel like we've got some good stuff to work with there. Gavin and I are going to work on working on a forum here later tonight, and homework. That was it. 2 things. So I have discovered a website. I'm going to send it to you all, and I'll probably send it to you guys. I'll make a little messenger group, and I'll share it in there. But it is the website on how to start up a cooperative, basically. And I'd like us to kind of go through it. I was thinking about going through it on stream, and I still might do that because I think it could be there could be value in that to some degree or another. But it's basically step by step, giving us little points of what to do and what stages and stuff. And so I think with the 4 of us, we're at the stage where we should be starting to look at legally what we're going to need to start doing in the future when it comes to incorporating and what to anticipate for and what to start thinking about. And that's where this thingy comes in. It's pretty good. The other thing I wanted to share, and I was wanting to know if you guys would be willing to do it, and that is to go through the I have a playlist. It's a little over an hour and a bit, but it is a web seminar that was presented and given by Co-op Ontario, and I just happen to have found it somehow, and I'll share the link here.
Well, I have a smart TV now, so it's easier to put something on the TV there and just play off. So yeah, I'll definitely give it a look.
But I would love to encourage everyone to give this a listen, and then when we come back next Monday, one of the things I'd like to do is have a discussion based on anything that stood out and what we think is applicable to us at this point, and any questions that we have that with regards to it. Laura.
Can you post that playlist in the Facebook chat or someplace? Just because as soon as this meeting is over, we don't have access to the chat where you send it anymore.
Yeah, maybe can you individually chat to me? I don't need a group message right now for me.
I can do that.
I'm just not that I don't want to be a friend right now. Yeah, appreciate that.
Group chat can be a pain, but
very true.
I'm just going through a bunch of stuff right now too, so I just don't want.
Oh, big hugs, man.
Alright, good.
And while I'm doing that, I might as well give you guys the website too at the same time. And for those of us who are listening on the internet, if you Google Canada.coop and how to start a co-op, you should find these things as well.
Okay, for people listening.
Yeah, I engage in this fantasy every once in a while where human beings, strangers on the internet who are also interested in working their own cooperatives find their way to our little corner here on the internet.
Never know.
Yeah. Laura.
So last week we were discussing motivational stuff and like getting a concise list of what to do in the present week. I do not recall exactly what those tasks were to help you get ahead, but I was wondering if you accomplished them.
I do. So I reached out to Sarah to join in our conversation today. That did not pan out. I reached out to Lorianne. She had a family member die, so she's not able to be here today. I failed to reach out to a third person, but Lauren and I did get together and discuss some stuff. But she was already here, so that doesn't count as a new person. The other thing that I did set up was to create the form. Or to start on creating a form that we would then use to create a business template.
We can definitely get going on that this week, probably, James. It's not going to look nice, but at least we can get something going and then can move it over to a nice design eventually. Like, might as well get started, I guess, right?
Yep. So, one foot in front of the other.
Add Gavin to the Google Sheets thing.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And Lauren.
So that you can see what is going on there too, because like that's important.
So, Gavin, I'm pretty sure I have your Gmail stuff. I can, you know what? I can share a link on the Facebook that will allow you guys to log in with your own credentials.
Yeah, sure.
So I'll just have to make sure that I edit it as, or make it so that you guys can edit and add as well. So. Now don't forget, it tells us who makes the edits, so anybody who keeps putting the word fart and booger in there. Anyway.
Damn it.
Anyway, we know who you are. Anyway. All right. I do hear Nina.
Yeah, she goes like, you're yelling at me. It's like a baby cry.
Nina. Hey, Nina.
Think how much she rides my Prodigy. Well, I guess she was sleeping on that for...
She naps with the Prodigy?
Yeah, someone said that looks so much closer. I'm like, I'm gonna have to, my new book to smack my bitch up on it. I'm just kidding.
I was going for Diesel Power, but
oh yeah,
that's my all-time favorite Prodigy song.
It's your favorite, yeah.
Point in the matter is this: if we can give the Ontario Cooperative Information thing a listen to. It's a couple of years old at this point, but the information is still more or less relevant. They haven't changed the laws in Ontario too much with regards to incorporating as a cooperative. They do go into a little bit of differences about the differences between not-for-profit and for-profit cooperatives. So that's a little interesting. I, of course, am an interested fan of becoming for-profit. One of the things you will not get out of the online stuff, but I will share with you, talking with somebody else, they mentioned at some point the Gay Lee Cooperative, which you may be familiar with as a dairy producer. Gay Lee butter, Gay Lee sour cream, that sort of thing. And a friend of mine has friends whose family are part of that cooperative, and they are, as he put it, he cannot confirm that they are millionaires, but he can definitely confirm that they are well off.
Nice.
Right.
Well,
and that to me just is an inspiration as to why I want to pull together a worker cooperative. Not only is it are they 67% more likely to survive 7 years out, according to the one set of statistics that Vosh is constantly quoting, and that comes from a Canadian study, interestingly enough. cooperatives are more likely to survive the 7-year stretch of and going on to being a successful, profitable business than traditional businesses that are sole proprietorships or even limited liability corporations. Anyway, it's exciting, and the idea that we can pull it off here, I really...
I can start focusing on it a little bit more now, just because things have slowed down. I'm hoping to not overtake so much work that takes my whole year out now. So I'm trying to just So I'm definitely able to focus on it a lot more now. So that's good. Anyway, I'll try to start making these Mondays, or I don't have to be caught up in the loop every time now. So hopefully. Anyway, thanks for shouting that though. I would have actually forgot today. So if you haven't, but
no problem.
Anyway, it was supposed to be on my Google Calendar. I lied. I put it on my Google Calendar. I'll do that with you. It's not when we go on our meeting actually. So anyway, can I actually jump? I'm super tired. I will have your meeting, but can I just get off right now and then let's say 7 o'clock, James. Is that okay?
I was gonna say it's 6:30 now. I was gonna wrap the thing up unless we have any other more.
Oh, okay.
Because I think we've gotten most of the itinerary covered today.
Yeah,
I think I did. What do we got? Except for book reading, which it's 6:35. I know that it's having a book reading and discussion over Zoom is always a little difficult. So I'll put it to you guys. Let's put it to a vote. Do we want to do book reading and discussion?
If you read right now, I might just fall asleep in my chair. So you got such a good voice, and it's gentle. I'll fall asleep. So I had such a busy day today. I was out and about, so I'm just gonna if we're gonna have our meeting, we should do it soon, and then
yeah, no worries.
Well, you saw me yawning and yawning over here, so I really can't stop breaking out into yawning.
No worries.
Nice to see you, hello. Nice to see you, Laura and Lauren.
Laura, you had I see your hand there.
Yes. So I was also wondering, now that you've done the tasks from last week, maybe set. So I think the homework that you're sending us.
Yes.
So you have homework for yourself.
Yeah, I'm going through that stuff as well, and I'm going to continue to reach out to Sarah, and I'm going to continue to work on this form here with Gavin.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say too. I'm going to work on the form. I'm going to need what I need from you. So
yeah, so I think I've and I mean anybody who's around during the week, I'm going to be working on talking out with my brain what I need to put into that formula for business planning. Really? Yeah. There's stuff about demographics in there. There's stuff
everybody
about...
likes to hear a dream, but they want to hear concrete plans. And they don't want to hear it's it's nice when our dream is the ever.
Really, a lot of it's going to be like, we're going to need this. Oh, and this relates to that. And so when we start a business, it's going to look like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Oh, right, we're going to need G. Right, okay, make sure we have that in there.
I always say it's good to dream big, but sometimes it's better just to get the thing going and then kind of get things, things doesn't mean just because it's at this phase at the start or just to get things going, and then things can start lining up. And it's what you necessarily think ahead of time that ends up not sometimes being what's necessary. Sometimes you'll go, well, I had this whole thing, and then you just realize, well, for whatever reason, this is a better way of going about it, right? So I know I'm not just saying in general, everything you work with, things tend to go very rarely as planned. You gotta be able to make adjustments, and sometimes just getting things going. We get the form and things, and you start adjusting things to more concrete things that actually sell. Yeah, go ahead, Laura.
I mentioned at the end of the last meeting something that my grade 4-5 teacher. I think I did. Did I mention the thing that my grade 4-5 teacher you would say?
I wasn't here, so.
What if my head were a hamburger? Basically, everybody in the class was, every time he assigned something, the kids in the class would put up their hands and like, well, what if I'm sick? Well, what if, something happens to my family? What if somebody dies? What if this? What if that? What if all of these other things?
Yeah.
And finally, the teacher got so fed up that he suddenly blurted out, what if my head were a hamburger? And everybody sort of stopped and stared, like, what do you mean by that? And he's like, my head is not currently a hamburger. I don't anticipate my head being a hamburger. If my head becomes a hamburger, I will deal with it at that point.
Exactly,
so, but it's pointless to come up with, like, what if questions and worry yourself into oblivion, because the more you worry about the future, the less likely your plans will come to fruition. They're too busy ruminating. So every single time I think to myself, when I'm worrying about the future, what if my head were a hamburger? It's not happening right now. I don't have to worry about it right now. And it's like the most, and it makes me laugh too. So it helps me.
I know it's a good saying, but yeah, it's like if you just start getting the steps going, and we start like proceeding. We don't have to have everything laid out at like things like everything. Every good business just organically grows and starts again the things in place. So, I love the idea. Like I said, I think it's a good idea. I think we just need to start rolling with it. And honestly, I couldn't have helped with a lot of things you needed with online till now anyway. But we should start definitely getting that stuff going too, and then, just go. It's make plans and if they don't work out, adjust them and just keep going with it. And I think that's the thing is, you can plan all day long, but if nothing gets going, it's not gonna. Nothing. You just got a bunch of dreams that don't amount to anything. So
I think the plan at this point, like the strategy of the TOM 100, is relatively sound. I am not immutable on the numbers, though, as much as I kind of probably sound like I am. The reason, like, my reasoning for not wanting to start collecting money until we get the 100 people and the 10 businesses is to kind of make sure that it's safe for everybody, to make sure that we don't have, like a dozen or so people and that I get really, really excited and we jump the gun and we start collecting money, but we don't actually have enough people to spread it out around to make it less risky, to the individual.
What I think we need to do is just have we need to start making things we can do now too.
Yes.
We can have these 100%. Discussions each day, but the discussions that keep going in over on dreams and stuff, we need to go, well, here, what we're talking about now, which is very good, we need a form, right? That's a good step. Form, get that going.
Which means we can then go...
Start getting physical things built that you can get to people and say, here's what we have, here's why this will work. So you need to start producing things.
What you got, Laura?
Yeah, that's sort of become my role. I don't want James. I don't want you to feel like we're ganging up on you or anything like that.
I
understand you're dealing with mental illnesses and all this other stuff. Which is why it's like my role to sort of keep people motivated and assign and say like, what's your homework for this week?
Yeah.
So if you're not thinking of tasks this week, you're only thinking of what are my tasks for this week, and then making sure that you take care of yourself emotionally and accomplish those tasks at the same time. And then before you know it, things have happened and you look back on it and think, how did I accomplish all of that? So, that's my goal when I say, like, what are your tasks for this week? Who are you calling? What is, and just setting a short list of things that is manageable, like a manageable list of things you can accomplish in a week, and also manage your mental health. And that way we can get this going despite the fact that some of us are struggling with issues and things like that. I'm the note taker and the motivational speaker.
That's good. No, I felt like this is the first meeting that's felt kind of like we got some concrete stuff going and stuff before, like, I think you'll find a lot of people will be willing to start coming to these as they feel like there's actually some stuff
exactly
coming through it.
exactly
And I know it's hard to get that going. It wasn't necessarily your problem, all your problem. It's just like I wasn't able to commit to the stuff right now, and it's hard to find more people, or if anybody is willing to commit every Monday to it. And then when you don't have anybody there, it's like, what do you go back to, right?
Well, and that's my job. My job is to be consistent and to make sure that the conversation is happening, so that when people are ready to have the conversation, it's here to be had.
No, so it's good. No, I feel like that's good. I really appreciate having Lauren on here. First time to meet with you, and you are really good at. I think you have you definitely belong in leadership part of that, so that's good. You feel like you bring some of that qualities on board, and that's good. And I'll try to do the techie stuff. That's what I think I'll be a part of. It seems like that's going to be my major part of it. So
I often, personally speaking, I sometimes like to think of it as like bringing together a crew for like a starship in the Star Trek universe.
I knew where you were going with that.
And everybody has a role and everybody has a strength, and and we're in the process of pulling it together, and so I'm excited. We get the form, then we can start putting out to our little network of people and putting out the word. We're looking for business people with business ideas, and
like, I'm finally Deanna Troy.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you say?
Although honestly, I think you'd probably be a little bit more Ezri Dax.
I don't remember who that is.
What's up, Lauren?
Oh, Lauren has something to say.
Bring me back to focus.
Or Star Trek. Oh God. Or whatever you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm giving myself homework since
yes,
that's the kind of kid I am. So with the co-op videos, I just don't want to make sure I'm duplicating this.
Mm-hmm.
Are there examples given of co-ops around Canada?
Yes.
How they function?
Yes.
What they do?
They mention them in passing. They mention the Gailey co-op for one.
Oh right, yeah.
I think the presenter mentions a couple of others and gives a couple of different examples. So especially for like. When they're listing the different kinds of cooperatives that exist out there, from consumer cooperatives to worker cooperatives to there's a third kind, like housing cooperatives. So yeah.
I'm just wondering, maybe a good. What I'd like to do is help you get some more names on a list to have conversations with.
Yeah.
Like business ideas. So I'm wondering if, maybe what you've given us here, these videos, might be a spark for some ideas of things that could almost work in Owen Sound or could be tweaked a little bit if I dig in a little bit, or I know someone that like works in the same sector or has the same skills, then...
We have room. We've brainstormed like a number of times about different potential businesses as well. Like we have room for industrial applications. We have room for, all sorts of different kinds of possibilities. It's kind of funny. I think Laura's on a phone call now. Anyway, point of the matter is, we've definitely had, and once we get the form for business proposals up and running, just even being able to create businesses, like potential business plans or potential business ideas as like exercises amongst ourselves, like saying let's come up with a business plan for the Grey Bruce and let's fill it out, and we can use these as potential examples for people that we would bring in.
I was gonna say, if I create a form right now, it would definitely be for back-end testing for now. If I want to make it public-faced, I would definitely want to have the full site ready, kind of kind of a basic site ready for the
even if we can eke out a basic idea, to
exactly.
what we're going to go towards, that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. No, I totally could make like I said, we could totally make a form in a week's time that we could test for ourselves. I just want exactly. Like you said, that's a great idea. We want to create test businesses and test it on ourselves, but like I wouldn't want anything of mine going public until I feel like it's kind of presentable. Yeah, just if you understand, I would like if we had a form we want to give out, it would have to be something maybe that be on like a website or something that has a little bit more.
I was even just going to do something as if it was going to fall to just me and me alone. I was going to do something as simple as Google Forms.
No, we'll do something nicer. We can definitely do that, and I'm gonna be able to help you with that now.
Perfect.
So I think so. We'll get going on that.
Well, why don't I remind you that you're awesome, Gavin, and you can go take a break before we end up meeting.
Yeah, I'm gonna take 15 minutes, and then we'll get together at 7. Okay?
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm
gonna head out too.
Lauren, has anyone reminded you that you are awesome yet today? I think I did earlier.
You too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, nice to see y'all.
And Laura's back just in time for me to remind Laura that she's awesome.
Sorry. Mossy says hi.
Hey,
he
Mossy.
Called me suddenly and I had to quickly answer the phone, which is why I disappeared for a second. And did you get a close up on my ear or something?
The whole time. The whole time. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Okay.
Okay, I'll see you later, folks.
Bye, Lauren.
Bye.
Bye, Gavin.
Bye.
And yeah, Laura, do you want the final word of the day?
Icky patang zoop boing zowie ziv.
Patang patangole biscuit barrel. I love it. And I would just like to say thank you everybody who joined us. Don't forget, you're all awesome. Bye.